On Wednesday, the Washington Post dropped a story that Trump attorneys were hoping that Justice Clarence Thomas would be able to help them overturn the 2020 election. Now, the Post reports that 8 emails ordered released by the U.S. District Judge David O. Carter of California included correspondence between Trump lawyers Kenneth Chesebro, John Eastman, and others discussing various legal strategies to convince Republican members of Congress to reject the official certification of electoral votes. That was on January 6th, of course. So, look, Eastman, just to remind you, wrote a memo to Mike Pence saying that if he had refused to certify the election, they could throw out the electors in 7 states that Biden had won and install fake electors to vote for Trump. We'll go through the details. His plan would have seen Pence, of course, determining which ballots were valid on his own. These are electoral count ballots from the states, from the electors, while asserting authority under the 12th Amendment, as well as precedents from Adams and Jefferson. If the state legislators have certified the Trump electors, he would count those as required by Article 2. This is from the Eastman memo, and then add any combination of states that would total 38 elector votes in order to just put Donald Trump over the top. If state legislators had not certified their own slate of electors, Pence would just step in and magically come up with a count of 232 for Trump, 222 for Biden, or alternatively, Pence could determine that because multiple electors were appointed from the 7 states but not counted because of ongoing election disputes. So these are the obviously the claims of voter fraud that were not substantiated and were later thrown out in around 60 court cases. So it's not like that they, weren't litigated. They didn't, make their case in court. No, they made their case and it was garbage. It was a pile of crap. So now Pence, of course, could say that neither candidate had the necessary 270 elector votes, throwing the election to the House of Representatives, where there 26 states would end up going for Trump, 23 for Biden, because again, they had the majority at the time. The one split vote where they could say Trump wins. It also have delayed until the so-called fraud investigations were completed. But, that would have just basically cemented Donald Trump's rule at that point. Obviously, a lot of these were really on very, very sketchy legal ground. And so they relied on Mike Pence as well. Mike Pence, well, we know that he rejected it. Now, in the case of rejection, I suppose, they had a backup plan, go to the Supreme Court. In one email from Chesebro to Eastman and several others sent on December 31st, Chesebro argued that U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas would end up being the key to asking the High Court to overturn then President-elect Joe Biden's win in contested states. The email said they should frame things so that Thomas could be the one to issue some sort of stay or other circuit justice opinion saying Georgia is in legitimate doubt. Now, that is something that he could actually have done, as he oversees that district. Chesebro then went into more explicit detail about the plan. Get any remotely favorable ruling from a federal judge, not to win outright, but to embolden GOP state legislatures, Congress, or Mike Pence to reverse the results. Chesebro contended that Thomas will be our only chance to get a favorable judicial opinion by January 6th, which might hold up the Georgia count in Congress, to which Eastman had replied, quote, "I think I agree with this." So, now, that's disturbing. The fact that Eastman and Trump allies looked at Clarence Thomas and thought, that's the guy. That's the guy who's going to help us out. If we can just get this case to the court, to Clarence Thomas, we can steal the election for Trump. Wow. And again, The reason that they had so much faith in Thomas is because he is not a neutral player. His opinion cannot be trusted on this. The man needs to recuse himself to anything related to January 6th. And here's why. His wife is, of course, Virginia Thomas. She's an election denier. There are texts between her and Mark Meadows about voter fraud, alleged voter fraud, about the election. And look, Clarence Thomas had even voted to block the release of her own text messages to the January 6th Commission. He knows. Everyone knows that he's compromised, that he's corrupted, that he has a massive conflict of interest when it comes to his wife and January 6th. Now, here's what Chisbro wrote in one email, quote, if we can just get this case pending before the Supreme Court on January 5th, by January 5th, ideally with something positive written by a judge or justice, hopefully Thomas, I think it's our best shot at holding up the count in a state in Congress. That's how they tried to steal the election. They damn near got away with it. Damn near. Look, Mike Pence, I got issues with Mike Pence, okay? Don't get me wrong there, all right?
Mike Pounds.
But, yes, he is an awful, terrible person, but the one thing that he will be remembered for good or ill, is saving our form of government, which is bizarre. And look, I hate it because he's loathsome in about 100 different ways. Hated by both the right and the left for good reason. But he actually did prevent this Trump coup from working. I mean, do you think, Justice Thomas wouldn't have done this? I think he would have. Do you think that Marjorie Greene, if she became Donald Trump's vice president and they tried to do this again, do you think that she'd be like, oh, whoa, Mr. President, I can't do that. I can't, whoa, no. No, we can't do that. Well, I believe in democracy. No, you don't.
And why their due process rights are being so flagrantly and horrifically violated.
Peachtree dish.
No, of course not. She would be like, oh no, sign me up. How do we steal democracy? Yes, how do we end democracy in this country completely and totally? How many? Where do we start? Where do we start? What do we need to do? How many states do we need? Look, I'm glad it didn't come down to that, and I am glad that Mike Pence did this, but he paid a price. Instead of just being hated by the left, which he'll always be, hopefully, Mike Pence's political career in the Republican Party is toast. He doesn't know it yet, but it totally is. Despite being a massive conservative douchebag and someone who hates reproductive rights, women's rights, and has this weirdo thing with his wife / mother, calling his wife mother. I don't know, very strange person. That said, again, weird times when that's the thing that he'll be remembered for. As for Thomas, well, he needs to recuse himself 100%. He is compromised, absolutely. And, if he doesn't, there's got to be a way to remove a Supreme Court justice. Unfortunately, or even just to stack the court. But seeing how Biden has done so far, I doubt very much that he would try to pack the court at all.